I'd like to give a special thanks to Rob Ellen from Live One, Podcast One, for allowing us to use this magnificent studio. So thank you. My first guest today is Ron Perlman. Everybody knows Ron from so many movies, but especially I know some people really remember Sons of Anarchy and Hellboy, because every time we're out somewhere, that's the two movies that always come up. So Ron, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Mike.
Awesome. So what have you been doing lately?
Well, now that we're no longer on strike, I've been catching up on some little work, a couple of indies and stuff, setting myself up for some pretty cool projects in the next few months. But what I'm really working on is this new studio that you may know about, Asyluum Studios, because you're my partner in that.
Yes, I know
And
that
so
very well.
you probably know more about what I'm working on than I do.
Yeah, well, that's why we let the audience know what we have going on. So why don't we jump right into it? This is how it first started.
So I think it's been something that's been bubbling up in me for longer than I even am aware of. I wrote a memoir about 10 years ago now, my early 60s, and it was more supposed to be an open letter to my kids and all my kids' friends who at the time were finishing up their studies and getting ready to come out into the world as artists, actors, musicians, dancers, painters, etc. So I thought I'd write a book chronicling my journey, but also giving an assessment of how I feel like the art form has changed vis-a-vis the power players, the people who provide the resources for us to do our thing, make our movies, make our TV shows, make our content. It was a great exercise because it forced me to sit down and think about where I was, where the world was when I started, long time ago, and where it is now, and trying to make sense of the fact of like what were the cosmic result of differences in market forces, particularly the corporatization of the art form. The fact that all of the studios when I was a kid or, shortly before I was born were family-owned entities. Even the networks, television networks, were owned by families. The movie studios were owned by families, the Cukors, and the Zukors and the Louis B. Mayers and the Goldwyns and the Warner Brothers and all those guys. Those were family-owned businesses. The notion behind Asyluum was to kind of turn the assumed, agreed upon norms, which is that these corporations have all the money and all the power, and you're going to work for them under their terms. And that's the way it always has been, except what I've felt, and this was the result of this particular strike, that the environment we're in right now, where the studios have been decimated and replaced by streaming companies, and these streaming companies are all publicly traded companies that will do anything to make their next quarter look good. And so the disparity between the impulse of making art, which is what, I'm interested in, and the agenda of these companies that we're supposedly working for are unrecognizable. They no longer fit in my mind, because what they've done by devaluing us so that they can get us for cheap and not have to share any of the information about what their profits are, so that they keep us out of the equation of sharing in the success of what we create. The disingenuousness of all of that has, in my mind, inspired a situation where these guys that own the bat and ball right now have relinquished their rights to call us colleagues, because they're basically underhanded, dishonest, and they are kind of hypnotizing us into thinking that we have no power and they have all the power. So Asyluum Studios is something where the only thing that will be replaced in the structure of a subscription-based streaming / production entity are the CEOs, because they contribute nothing. And if we can raise the kind of money we need to raise to make movies and television and not have to worry about the $1 billion that go in these guys' pockets, the guys who are claiming that they can't make a profit, and have all of the decisions collectively made by those of us who do it, and those of us who understand the discipline of how to make a movie on time and on budget, but also how to make something that is going to blow people's minds so that people are going to want to come see it, and we generate the profits that all these other guys hope we generate, except now it stays within the community. And it's set up in a way where all of the money is completely transparent. So every single movie has its own standalone budget and a break-even point. And the minute we hit a break-even point, everybody starts sharing in the revenues. And when I talk about everybody, we're working on a model where absolutely everybody who worked on the movie will celebrate. And so everybody will have pride of ownership, and pride being something that has been completely removed by the guys I've been referring to, and a power and interest in making it as good as it can possibly be made, because when it goes through the roof, they participate. So the amount of things that are unquantifiable, like joy and love and respect and dignity and integrity, that have been thrown away as useless by the corporate mentality, is returned back into the art form. And I feel as though that will cause an explosion in creativity, that will cause an explosion in enthusiasm, and an explosion in trust and love for one another and respect for one another. And so when you do all of that, which filmmaker in the world wouldn't want to be part of that?
Well, you happen to have several directors and producers that are notable that you said would like to come aboard the Asyluum Studios.
Well, this podcast is the most I've ever described Asyluum in public. We haven't announced it yet. And so I've been very reticent about talking to my filmmaker friends until I know that what I'm talking to them about is real and is going to actually happen. So we're in the early stages of putting this together. But the people who I do mention it to, the filmmakers who I do mention it to, wonder why nobody did this sooner, and wonder how fast can we pull this off, because this is paradise. And this is so obviously the best way to return the power and the glory to the art form that the whole world, it celebrates in. I mean, movies and television are America's greatest export. Always have been, as is music. And since corporate structures have co-opted all of the artistry, and in order to keep us in our place and make sure that we don't get too much or ask for too much, they have devalued us and made us think that we're small and we don't really contribute. That's like the greatest trick the devil ever played is making us believe he didn't exist. Well, the greatest trick corporate America has ever played is that the 1% have more power over the 99%. And I'm here to tell you, sorry, bro, you're just wrong.
Well, I commend you what you've done, and that's what won me over to partner up with you. But what I like about all of what we're doing is, number one, it's being run by filmmakers, not attorneys. Because look at all the studios; they're not filmmakers that run the studios; they're attorneys. They just crunch numbers and get big checks every year and golden parachutes when everybody's tired of them and they move on, and they have hundreds of millions of dollars for what have they accomplished, but taking money that should have been equally shared with everybody involved. I also like the fact that we are going to help bring back the theaters, the family experience. I can remember when I was a kid, and I'm sure you, when you'd go with your mother and father, sister and brother, you'd go to the movie theater as an experience. You'd get your popcorn and your soda, and you'd make it an evening where the family does it together. From COVID, everybody got so used to being cooped up and staying at home and sitting in your boxers or whatever sweats and just vegging out. And it was so unhealthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. I really want us to get people to get out there, kind of reboot the older little theaters like the Lemleys and some of those others, and bring out these authentic movies, those international movies, those fun little horror movies that we like, and or little comedies and action and so on, but back into the theater. Like when I was working with Joel Schumacher many years, and he used to share so many stories. He says, Michael, whenever I have a premiere, I go there for the photos and I leave. And why do you leave? He goes, because I want to wait to go to the theater on just what we used to call civilians, everyday people go. And I want to hear them laugh and come from the heart because, it's a set up stage at a premiere. Everybody's going to, of course, act like it's great, and even if it sucks. But you go into a regular theater and you sit back in the audience, those are the real people that I want to listen to, what they think, because that's my audience. That's why I make movies.
They pay their $14 and they don't have an agenda other than, is it good or is it not good?
Right. And so when we started talking about this, I want to have these theaters flourish. And these streaming platforms have hogged all this beautiful art and pay filmmakers like nothing now. They used to give them lots of money. Then all of a sudden, well, we'll give you X or we'll give you this much percentage. And you spent all that time making this magnificent piece of art. I think it's so unfair. And I just think that what we're doing now is a perfect time because people are now fed up with what's going on with the unions, what's going on with all these streaming platforms. And I know how we're trying to work together to possibly bring back where if we have a streaming platform, which we want to do, where you can see all these shows and not have to buy another app, and another app. Because years ago when you had cable, it had everything, HBO, Showtime, Stars, what do you want? Right there. Then all of a sudden they said, we can make more money. So we started separating it. I want to bring that back. I want to acquire libraries. I want us to make series that were hits that got discontinued because there was no money left to make it. But it's like you said, but it's going to be equal ground.
Yeah, a couple of things what you're grappling with there. We have entered into for lack of a better term, the Amazon world where you don't ever have to leave your house. We'll bring you everything. We'll bring you your groceries. We'll bring you your books and your music. We'll bring you your diapers. We'll bring you your cleaning products. You never have to leave your house. And there's something very, very seductive about that. And on top of that, once they have, grabbed this foothold into changing the consciousness of the way people get their stuff, all the stuff that they get, that they never have to leave their house for, which is a very seductive idea. Then comes a pandemic. And not only is it possible for you to stay in your house and get everything, but it's essential because you can't leave your house. Now you're in a pandemic. So now we have a perfect storm of these streamers being able to come in and say, you never have to go anywhere. We're going to bring you everything you could. You're going to bring you TV series. We're going to bring you movies. We're going to bring you this. We're going to bring you that. And, and everybody went, how cool. And for the first couple of years, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of TV shows and movies that were produced, and people would binge watch them and forget about them. And there was no such thing as the making of a magical classical movie like Gone with the Wind that is going to transcend generations. It was just content. It was just, and that was fine for a while. But I feel as though the peripheral effect that thinking had has decimated the little guy in this country because Amazon put everybody out of business. Every bookstore, grocery stores. They're putting everybody out of business with this notion that so the mom and pop thing and the ability to work in a place where, with your high school education, if you put in a hard day's work in a family business, you could make a decent living, raise children, and retire with dignity. That's the dream. That's the American dream. That's the dream of the middle class. That's what we had when I was a kid growing up. We don't have that anymore because we have one mega company that's making it impossible for anybody else to exist. And when you decimate the ability for American people to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and to support themselves without having a PhD in biotech or whatever it is that you need in order to get a goddamn job these days. What you've done is you've turned the population into disaffected, angry people who feel like the world has passed them by and forgotten about them. So the effect of these mega corporations that are supposedly making your life so easy by making it so that you never have to go anywhere, what they've done to decimate the quality of the American experience can never be articulated strongly enough. And it's caused a cynicism, and it's caused a lot of movements in our politics where people are actually starting to question democracy, to actually start to question the American dream. It doesn't affect me anymore. It passed me by. So why should I believe in it? Let me start voting for guys who are talking about, autocracy, who want to be kings, who want to decimate the Constitution and the rule of law. So the ripple effect of the cynicism of, huge corporate America that swallows up every single beautiful thing about being alive in this world is got to be addressed, and it's got to be handled as if it's a war. And that's what I'm here for.
Well, I commend you on that. I really do, because something's got to change now. We have to create a cultural shift, not just a movement, a whole cultural shift. Like, for instance, I did a workout at a gym in West Hollywood, and I decided, well, let me get a bite to eat since I'm in the area. And I went over to this restaurant, looked really good. It had you could pick fish, chicken, salad, tofu if you're vegan. And so I had to make me a salad and some nice piece of salmon, and I brought over to the register, and I went to pay for it. And the girl goes, well, we don't take cash. I go, you don't take cash? And she goes, yeah, credit card only. I said, well, I just happen to have cash. Can I just give you the cash? And she said, no, we can't. So here's this nice big piece of salmon, all of these great steamed vegetables. So she goes, sorry, you can't have it. And I said, okay, so what are you going to do with that? I don't know. And they just took the food back. And I looked at her and I said, you mean I can't give you, I'll tell you what, it's like $14. How about I give you the 20? You keep the rest. It's change. I'm really hungry. I'd really appreciate it if I could get the food. And manager came over, sorry, so we can't do it. So he threw it out. Then let a man eat. And I was willing to keep the change, but I just want something to eat. It's become so automated, like you said. And I love when I go to the market. When I was 8 years old, I used to go with my grandmother and my mother to the market. My grandmother would show me how you feel a melon and how you press. And if it goes in and it softly, it feels moist, and you sniff it, and you can smell that cantaloupe sweet smell, it's ready. If not, it's not ripe. She'd show me how to pick certain pieces of fish or the right cut of meat. That experience was beautiful. And I do a program with kids. I encourage parents to go to this market and make it an experience. Shop with your kids. Show how much fun you created something together. And because of the pandemic and what it did to everybody's minds, they're in this automated machine where everything's brought to me like in the Jetsons, and that's what it's all about. And it takes away that interaction with people. And all of a sudden we wonder why there's school shootings and people committing suicide, because they've gone actually nuts being at home for such a long time and put into this box. So what I want to do is create that cultural shift, get back out to the theaters, go to the market, get moving. You're being more sedentary. You want to burn calories? You burn calories. I see people at the market in the gym, and they'll wait to get a parking spot right by the door. So park over there and walk a little bit. I'll see people pumped for 2 hours, but they're taking the elevator down to the bottom floor. And this was an NBA player. I was like, he can't go down the stairs. And I love going down the stairs. When I do my cardio, I get off the machine and then I sprint down the stairs. I sprint to the top floor of the parking lot, which I do it on purpose, just so I can get that extra amount of cardio, so I can burn more calories. But people seem to want all those shortcuts, and that's one of the issues today with AI. They want to take someone like you, that voice, that look, and everything, and make it for a movie, and then keep using it without paying you. That's not fair. Now, when you brought up, Mike, we have to limit how AI is used in movies because it takes work away from people that have worked so hard to build that career, build that skill set. And I know you're on the same page with this.
Yeah. The diabolical thing about AI is that they're the people who I've been trying to, I've been inelegantly trying to describe the dehumanization that comes when your only agenda is stock prices in the next quarter and making so much money that you can put so much more in your pocket and you can keep your job. That's what the tail that's wagging the dog. So when something like AI comes along and they realize how much money they can save by not having to use human beings to write, to direct, to act, but they could just get their likeness for pennies on the dollar. Is AI an incredibly exciting notion when it comes to curing cancer, when it comes to the genome, the stem cells, all the things that it's going to do medically, all the things that it can do in terms of critical thinking? Incredibly exciting. But it's also for those of people whose obsession is to dehumanize everybody and make sure that nobody eats, nobody makes a living except them, and they're going to use it to replace rather than enhance, rather than improve, then they've got to be prevented from having it. And the fact that my guild, the Screen Actors Guild, allowed that to be a part of the conversation is criminal in my mind. Like, sorry, it's not on the table. We have been making movies for 100 years without AI. If you need to make a movie with AI, then you don't want the people who work in our guild, because these are human beings who have trained their entire lives and are skilled and have these things that can't be replaced. The human heart cannot be replaced. The human mind cannot be replaced. And if it can, then you're so cynical, get the fuck out of here. So Asyluum Studios, among all of the other things that it will do, will outlaw AI in terms of how it's used to write, direct, and act. And if you really, really are obsessed with you needing AI for your movie, I'll send you to Warner Brothers. I'll give you Zaslav's fucking home address. He'll be happy to talk to you about AI because he'll save a couple of bucks.
Sure.
And what the fuck does he care?
Well, Ron, I want to thank you for today. I mean, this has been enlightening, and I know that we're going to have you come back on when we officially announce Asyluum Studios.
Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Thank you for letting me rant and rave, Mike, and thank you for all your support and your friendship. It means the world to me.
Same here, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you tuning in to Live Well and Thrive, and please remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching.